and it was violence. And actually the people propagating this stuff and the people behind the scenes were also pushing and sympathizing with the same thing. So there's a huge disconnect between what people like that put out and what they believe behind the scenes. And I've written about it a lot for Byline Times. I think Lauren Southern is the only person that I worked with that wasn't an extreme radical behind the scenes. It was like really shocking to find out.
That was part of a live stream that Caolan Robertson did with the Henry Jackson Society at the end of March on abandoning the far right. Judge for yourself what Caolan Robertson's own views were behind the scenes from these clips of his interview with Douglas Murray in 2017.
The alt-right, which the alt-right have assumed to be the same thing by mainstream media, are Richard Spencer and people like that, growing and actually massive, probably 30%, I'd say, in numbers of the online right-wing sphere. The debate that's dividing the whole thing is the Jewish question, whether Jews control the media, whether they're the problem, and white nationalism and white supremacy. What do you... Yeah, I mean, it's growing. I think it's bigger than people realise because it's given them a platform, it's given them a voice.
In 2017 to have a reference to the Jewish question.
What is your thoughts on that?
I don't like the term the Jewish question being used. It has nasty echoes.
One of the things that I was reading recently was that there's a double standard on the right. They say that Islamophobia is perfectly reasonable, but anti-Semitism is totally off limits. It's totally un-okay. But both are fear of religions. What would you say about that? Would you say it's a double standard?
No, I don't accept the premise 6 million Jews in a few years, in living memory, and you think we should sort of have dropped it by now. We shouldn't forget these things, no.
He clearly wanted to use the interview to try to normalise anti-Semitic language. After the interview, he interviewed Nazi after Nazi after Nazi. Between leaving Rebel Media and allegedly shaking down its Jewish owner Ezra Levant and being taken on by Tommy Robinson, the extreme nature of his far-right views could not have been more obvious. He was very credible in the live stream as a centrist counter-extremism expert, as much against Antifa as against the far right. He said he wasn't left-wing and presented as not being anti-Trump either. He is a director of the decidedly left-wing and pro-Antifa Byline Times. And in one of his articles, he referred to Donald Trump's presidency as 4 years of darkness. In today's world, anti-Semitism is very transferable. There is no reason to believe that in his present incarnation he has abandoned the pro-Nazi anti-Semitism he held before. To abandon it, he would have had admitted to it. And he hasn't. Were he to do so now, he would be admitting that when he painted a picture of himself to the Henry Jackson Society as an innocent abroad who didn't know what he was getting caught up in, he was lying. There's every reason to believe that he harbours the exact same hatred towards the Jews now as was evident when he was on the far right. if the Henry Jackson Society doesn't distance themselves from Caolan Robertson, they will be adding themselves to a long line of suckers being taken in by him.
I think Lauren Southern is the only person that I worked with that wasn't an extreme radical behind the scenes. It was like really shocking to find out.